Well, Director Calabria, thank you for testifying today. I'd like to start with some of the basics here. Combined Fannie and Freddie guarantee or own a portfolio of roughly 28 million single-family and multifamily mortgages for a value of approximately $5 trillion. That's nearly half of all outstanding mortgage debt in the United States. These are significant numbers. Early on, there was concern about what the pandemic might mean for homeownership and whether our housing markets could withstand the impact. Under your leadership, Director Calabria, and decisive action by the FHFA, you confronted the challenges head on. And I want to commend you for that. In March, FHFA started issuing statements to mortgage servicers about their responsibility to ensure, quote, hardship forbearance is an option for borrowers who are unable to make their monthly mortgage payments, end quote. On March 18th, FHFA went further and suspended foreclosures and evictions for its single-family mortgages for at least 60 days. That was 9 days before Congress enacted the CARES Act. I repeat, that was 9 days before Congress enacted the CARES Act, which codified those two FHFA policies. So that's leadership. The results of FHFA's leadership could not be clearer. In February, the GSEs had about 580,000 delinquent loans, or about 2% of its portfolio. Approximately 9,000 were in some stage of foreclosure. Today, the delinquency rate has almost tripled because of this pandemic. Yet loans in forbearance are just under 5%. And the number of foreclosure sales fell to just 97 in May. It's clear these policies have worked to protect American homeowners impacted by the pandemic. In August, FHFA announced it was going to extend its foreclosure and real estate owned eviction moratoria through at least December 31. However, these pandemic-related actions and others come at a cost. FHFA projected these costs in August to be at least $6 billion to the GSEs. That's a concerning figure. What is more concerning was FHA's poorly explained rollout in August of a new adverse market fee. The way this was announced and the initial 3-week timing for its implementation doomed it from the start. Clearly, FHFA has a statutory obligation to ensure the GSEs operate in a safe and sound manner with sufficient resources to meet these obligations. That's the 2008 law that created FHFA, a law that Chair Waters and all 11 other current committee Democrats who were in Congress at the time supported. So let me repeat, the law that Director Calabria is implementing and following is the one that Chair Waters and 11 other current Democrats on this committee who were in Congress at that time supported. But this last-minute fee on mortgage refinancings rightfully received bipartisan scrutiny. I'm pleased that FHFA understood our concerns and revised the fee to protect homeowners with loan balances below $125,000 and delayed the implementation date until January. That's a good example of how this process ought to work. Congress relying on FHFA to make smart decisions regarding the pandemic, and FHFA listening to Congress and responding to this balancing act of protecting American homeownership with its legal requirements to supervise the GSEs. When you testified before the Senate in June, Director Calabria, you said you were, quote, proud of what FHFA has done to help borrowers, renters, and the housing market deal with this crisis. But FHFA recognizes that more work remains. That crisis caused by COVID-19 is not over, end quote. I think we all can agree on that, even today. And so I thank you for your leadership and the efforts throughout this pandemic. Thank you for your thoughtful approach to safety and soundness and homeownership in America. And I'd like to yield the balance of my time to Ranking Member of the Housing Subcommittee, Mr. Stivers. Mr. Stivers.
I'd like to thank Mr. McHenry for yielding, and I'll be fairly brief. You know, I want to thank Director Calabria for his leadership, and I'm looking forward to asking some questions today about the adverse finance fee, as well as the capital rule and some other very important things. I think Mr. McHenry really summed it up well on the leadership you've provided. I appreciate your leadership. We look forward to asking you some very important questions, because we're 12 years past the financial crisis, and the only piece of work that is undone is fixing Fannie and Freddie. So we've got some work to do. When you and I yield back.
Thank